It's dusk when the small group I'm hiking with enters a clearing. Our tour leader, who asks to be identified only as Renove, stops and announces we've arrived. I set down my backpack, exhausted, yet exhilarated, and soak in the view. I've promised to keep the coordinates and route a secret, but I can say we're deep within Fostok's Tukia Mountains, with an incredible view of the sun over the Ripcorn Canyon. A sense of peace and tranquility washes over me before being replaced by the thought that my blood-curdling screams could echo through the canyon and no one would ever hear. Makes sense why Neville Lott chose this spot for his grisly deeds. Renove announces that the ceremony will begin once the sun is set. Others in the group prepare by changing out of sensible hiking gear and into elaborate costumes that are common at Day of Vara celebrations, but slightly unsettling. In this setting, a few people briefly disappear into the dusk, only to return with intensely focused, bloodshot eyes. I sheepishly pull out my old Neville Lott mask and slip it over my head. It's basically a crudely stitched gunny sack with an integrated respirator. Lott wore such a sack to hide his horrific scars, but kept the respirator hidden underneath. The respirator being integrated in the mask was actually popularized by pop culture representations rather than Lott's real thing. I avoid disdainful stares from more committed participants, foregoing with an easy and obvious choice for the ceremony. Instead, I watch Renove strategically place candles around the clearing. That's when I first sense that something's wrong. I count Renove's steps while crossing from one side of the clearing to the other, and my heart drops. It's smaller than a crime scene described in police reports. There's no way Neville Lott committed his horrific murders here. I'm certain of this because I've read every book I couldn't find on Neville, and I've pored over every police report multiple times. My obsession with Terra's most famous murderer began as a young child huddled around a campfire in these very mountains. As my father and uncle recalled this summer, their family camping trip was cancelled. They proceeded to tell me the story of how 7 hikers went missing over the course of that year, only to be found suffered unspeakable horrors at the hands of the deformed and deranged Neville Lott. They avoided grisly specifics, but my young, imaginative mind couldn't keep from wondering exactly what happened. Then, one night, when my parents weren't out, I secretly watched the 2902 slasher classic, inspired by Lott's killing spree, The Hill Horror. The explicit imagery of Lott dissecting and dismembering his victims remains burned into my mind. But what struck me most were the flashbacks to Lott's normal life in Caliban before the Vandal invasion. It wasn't the graphic description and depiction of him burning off his own tongue that kept me up at night. It was the scene of Lott buried beneath the rubble of his own home, unable to do anything but watch through a crack in the wreckage as the Vandal massacred his family. Somehow Neville Lott embodied true evil and still earned my pity. These conflicting emotions confused me at first. How could I pity someone who did such unspeakable acts? Can extreme trauma truly change someone that much? Where exactly did history end and the myth begin? These questions inspired me to learn as much as possible about the real Neville Lott. My obsession with Lott's case blossomed into a general fascination with the macabre and gruesome true crime tales. Between the creative writings and journalism courses at university, I also took forensic science and criminal psychology classes, hoping to gain additional insight into why or how someone would commit such heinous acts. I've spent much of my professional career chasing stories dealing with the same issues that fascinated me as a kid. So when I approached about writing dispatches from the Darkness series on the UE's most haunted locations, Neville Lott's clearing immediately came to my mind. Finally, I could justify why I wanted to find a spot law enforcement had kept a secret since its initial discovery. Very little is publicly known about Lott's crimes. The scene and the clearing is somewhere in the Kuga Mountains in the Tehran state of Vostok, and under enough cover to not be spotted by surveying ships. It's secluded enough so it could be only reached on foot, but still close enough to hiking trails and campgrounds so Lott could hunt for victims. Most of the people who possessed the scene have now passed. But even in the wake of renewed interest in the case, following the release of the Hill Horror, those that had there swore they've been there never disclose its location. When interviewed for Unspeakable Evil, what I considered the definitive book on Lott, lead investigator Gaston Nazari flatly rejected author Palaquai's request to take her to the scene. Nazari bluntly told her, "No good can come from going there. In all honesty, I hope a rock slide was destroying that site forever." I'll admit that being told that I can't do something often only motivates me more. I reread all I could about the Lott case and combed through every detail in the police reports for any morsel that might hint at its location. I even compared hiking guides of the era to the current ones to see if any trails had been rerouted or abandoned. When my research yielded no insights, a friend put me in touch with someone in the Tehran occult community who claimed to have participated in a secretive ceremony at the site. Though this connection was weak, I met Renov. We met for coffee in Prime and felt each other out. I guaranteed their anonymity and promised to keep the location and aspects of the ceremony secret. Renov proved to be knowledgeable about both Lott and his crimes. Now, as I take a seat on a cold rock before the ceremony begins, I regret not asking more specific questions. Still, I willingly participate in a ceremony, best described as blending occult pageantry with true crime spectacle. Renov lights candles, leads chants, and freely blends facts with fictional flourishes popularized by the Hill Horror. Honestly, it's frightfully good fun, even if it's not the dark adventure to Terra's most notorious crime scene I was promised. Following the ceremony, we all change back into hiking gear and strap on headlamps for the trek out. We walk mostly in silence during the long journey down the mountain. I'm exhausted and a bit deflated. Others are still coming down from their pre-ceremony indulgences. Trees rustle above and around us. A sudden shriek snaps in the dark, startles the woman in front of me, enough to make her stop dead in her tracks. At one point, the stiff breeze howls through the canyon, sounding like a distant, mournful scream. The hair on the back of my neck stands up, and a wave of sadness washes over me. For the rest of the hike, I'm haunted by that moment of fear, although briefly and ultimately harmless. It made me think of Neville Lott's victims in the last moments of their lives. Poor souls who ventured into these mountains to find peace and solitude, only to suffer terrible fates. Before coming here, I was convinced that visiting Neville Lott's clearing might provide additional insights into the killer that was fascinating me for decades. Yet as I leave, I feel guilty and think about how disrespectful it is to the victims to turn that clearing into a tourist destination for someone fascinated by their killer. By the time I'm out of the forest, I have no desire to continue my search for the elusive spot. This trip has convinced me that some places deserve to be lost to time. And though I may have not reached Neville Lott's clearing, I still remain haunted by it. So that was fun, just good fun for Day of Vara Halloween stuff. The article was in Jump Point 8.9 a couple years ago. I've always said, and I'll keep saying this over and over again, CIG, please release more subscriber content publicly on the comlink section on the RSI website, like you have been doing, but do more of it. This was great timing, good curated content, but please, please, please release more of it. Do not have it hidden, locked away behind jump points for years. If you ever want to subscribe, there is some great information on RSI's website. I highly suggest, especially the lower plan is actually a pretty good deal, especially if you like some of the flair coming up. Every month you get free flair, and you have the opportunity to buy more flair if you choose to. If you do a year, you get a discount on a coupon, depending on which level you choose. It's a different percentage. And you get a free fly every month. I think right now it's like the Cutlass Red or something is the one you can buy. But long story made short, I hope you appreciated this dramatic reading of this wonderful, wonderful, interesting stuff of Neville Lott. Right now, if you go to Jumptown Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, you can get yourself a Day of the Vara mask that's a Neville Lott. This is kind of like a Neville Lott themed event. All you got to do is go to Yella, hit up Jumptown. My previous video has the exact location, and go there in an 890 jump with regeneration. And there's some bugs right now in the PTU, but not the PU, which is where you should be going there in. So be sure to go into the PU in 3.14 live and hit up Jumptown Monday, Wednesday, or Friday and check out the different rooms there. They're fascinating. And just like this is interesting lore history, Jumptown itself is a fascinating game history location. Game history being something that's kind of growing and has a lot of nostalgia for a lot of the early players. If you're in an org with mixed groups that like you have newer players, older players, that would be a really fun way to do it, is kind of go in a group, like a party bus, like a Cutlass Red or a Carrack or something, and go check the place out, make sure you have your medical up to date, and just have a good time. Don't take anything too flashy in there. You may lose it. There will be people probably fighting each other there. It is not at all a safe location, and it has no armistice. But that's part of the fun. I suspect that's what CIG is trying to encourage, is that or Jumptown 1.0 aspect in the new Jumptown 2.0 that they're working on now. But right now it is, there's a lot of nostalgia there for a lot of people. There is a beacon directly to Jumptown too, by the way. So I hope you appreciated this content. I know lore is not my more popular videos, but I really get a kick out of doing these, and this is just perfect timing for the Day of Vara / Halloween time period that we're in. And whatever version you celebrate, I wish you a happy Halloween, happy holidays, and happy Day of Vara and coming up. And I hope you get out there and have some fun. And yeah. See you in the next one. Oh, and if you like this kind of stuff, please be sure to like, comment if you think I could change things up a little bit. I do read every single comment, and if you made it this far, be sure to subscribe. I love making content like this, and there'll be more of it, I promise.